Welcome, welcome, patrons. It's been an age since the last Hahren'al, but today I have something a little special. I reached out to North Mists, a new indie game studio with a number of former Bioware devs, and three very special people agreed to sit down and talk about their past in the Dragon Age series and the future games they are working on. So, all right, can you guys give me a introduction so we all know your voices and who you guys are?
Hi, I'm Sylvia Feketekuty. I worked for 15 years at Bioware as a writer and narrative designer.
I'm Mary Kirby. I worked at Bioware for 17 years as a writer and narrative designer. I did not say that just to one-up you.
No, but you were like that. You were there longer than me. It's a material fact of the universe.
Material fact of the universe is I'm Sarah Hayward, and I was at Bioware for 13 and a bit years in various roles in the cinematics team, and then onto the realization director role eventually. Yeah.
We'll get more into that because I am ignorant to game dev, and I have no idea what that means.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't either, so it's fine. No, we'll dive into my ridiculous career later.
So first off, I want to thank you guys for sitting down with me today. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk about what you're doing now and then some of the stuff you've done at BioWare. So just a very beginning, how did North Mist begin?
Mary and I had ice cream
Yes.
with Craig. And
And with Sylvia?
and Sylvia was also present, but Sylvia didn't jump
No.
ship yet.
This is true. I just remember the conversation you're talking about.
Yeah, so I guess we reveal to the depths of the internet that the narrative team from BioWare tends to meet at least once a year for ice cream because Sylvia is excellent at keeping us together.
I just really like the ice cream place we go to
It's
be
a
honest.
good
It's-
one.
But yeah, no, it was one of those like, hey, we haven't seen anyone for a while. It's summer. Why don't we get together in one place?
Yeah, and so we were there, and Craig, our systems architect, was just like, "Hey, have you heard about indie games and all this funding streams and whatnot?" And I was like, "No." That's crazy. Who would open a studio? That's so much work. And then, a month later, we were at it. North Mist became a official entity, like November 2024. So it's a baby. It's a little baby of a thing. And then Mary and I were the first boots on the ground. Just what game do we want to make? What do we want to do with our lives? Who even are we? What is life? And then we answer those questions in the form of podcast and game development. So yeah, that's kind of it. The back of the box like mantra for the studio is just that we're aiming to be a boutique studio that makes really like small team but really interesting and in-depth narratives and really pushing that. So using a blend of our experiences, which is in substantial narrative design across the board, and I've got a metric F ton of experience making cinematics, which are the movies inside of games. We're bringing those skills to the forefront. So we want to make narrative stories that are weird and wild and wonderful, and really exist in a space that we completely control. So yeah, a boutique studio full of weirdos. That's what we're going for.
Now, you mentioned earlier about revenue streams or something like that for indie studios. What do you mean by that?
So there's several of them, and I didn't know any of it. I spent my whole career just being the person getting paid by the mega corporations to make pretty things that end up on screen somehow. And so when I started getting into like the business of it, like how do we do this in a age of massive layoffs and everything? How does one start something from scratch? And there's a couple of revenue streams we're looking into, and one of them is, crowdfunding is definitely the one that people kind of flag as like the be-all end-all, but it's really tough. We're not experts at that. We're much better at just making the product than marketing it. So we went to the government. The Canadian government is the first place we started, and have been working with their many different media funding and support programs for women-led studios and other such things to get our initial kind of revenue streams there. Yeah. And as well as just, our back pockets. A lot of that. And
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, this is the start of the studio. But yeah. But we have managed to get Patreon up and going, and that has been a delightful little takes the edge off of some of the bills, that's for sure.
Now, Sylvia came later, so how did Sylvia get into this?
I took a little bit of time off. I left BioWare. I believe it was December 2024. And it was just it felt like it was time. 15 years is a long time in the game industry. So I took a chunk of time off. I was basically just painting miniatures and reading and playing video games, just kind of taking a few months to do that, to cool down.
Sounds like the dream, honestly.
It's pretty good. It was I think something I needed. But and after that I started looking around going, okay, what's there out there? And I knew Sarah. I just kept in contact with Sarah and we were chatting, and I can't remember if I asked you first if you need my help or are you interested, or if you asked me. I can't remember which it was. Like, which one of us broached the subject first.
I think we were just talking about like why we make content and what we miss about making content. And then I was like, hey, Mary and I are making some content. And you were like, content's good. And we just kind of went that
I like
way.
making stuff. Yeah, and what appealed to me was like, the nice thing is I know everyone on the team. We're a small team right now, I think. 5 full-time, 3 part-time people, 4 part-time people.
It rotates. We're under 10 people at the moment.
Yes.
That's the best way to phrase it. Yeah.
But the thing that was really appealing to me, one of the first things was I knew everyone. I'd worked with them before, with a couple exceptions, and the new people we've had on have been super excellent. It's been great to have them. And the people I did know, we could just shortcut a lot of conversations because we'd been in the video game business for so long. It was kind of a relief just to know people and know what I was talking about very quickly, and we could just sort of debate stuff and lay stuff out easily and with a lot of camaraderie and respect, which is
Let
nice
us design, like, I've never designed something that fast in my life.
Yeah.
We pulled together the concept of the Concierge between Mary and I 3 days.
Yeah.
In
Like
3
that.
days,
Oh my
we
God.
had the entire game, like, sketched out. And then, the demo got sketched out in a month, not even, which is absurd. Also, the internet doesn't know that there's a demo.
I was about to ask demo.
A wink. But anyway.
Yeah, when I came on, a lot of stuff had already been like laid out. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, and like you guys did get it down very fast, and it was sort of nice again to sort of see what about this? Okay, yeah, they have that written down. What about that? Okay, yeah, that's the plan. Obviously being a smaller team, there's stuff you can't do, but the stuff you can do is actually surprisingly flexible and
It moves very quickly. Well,
yes.
like you were saying, our established trust. Yeah, the last summer was wild. Yeah.
What happened last summer?
Woo!
Listen, you can't just
I'm
drop
gonna
that.
be dropping like cliffhanger, clickbait shit all the time.
Okay, we don't want to go there. We don't have to. But
Oh no, I leave that to you and how much you want to tease your audience into asking for more. But no, it's no secret that we've got a video game in development about the Concierge. It's in fact called The Concierge. And the podcast is very much our preliminaries on that. That's us figuring out the world, the IP, the actors, the story, the scripts, how we want to work together as a team. The fact that we made a podcast and it's making a little bit of money, that's wonderful. That's great. The purpose of it was for us to get tires on the road on a brand new project and a brand new IP as soon as possible, which it's been wildly successful in doing because it exists. Mary, I feel like you haven't talked yet.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
I know. That's why I got to be on you.
I always worry that you're like, if only someone would let me talk, and then you're like, let's speak quiet. Oh,
unfortunately, I'm the same way, but I'm the host this time, so I'm like forcing myself to talk. So, if I like, I'll question for all three of you three. All three of you three. That's a sentence. But can you you were so used to working at like that big corporate thing. You kind of talked a little bit how going indie has been, but like for each of you, how has it? Is it more relaxing? Is it more stressful? Is it better having more control?
You get to answer that
Oh
one first,
God.
silent one.
Okay, fine. It's a different experience. Like, I feel like it's just on its own separate spectrum of game dev. To some extent, like in AAA, what we would do on a project was small teams. Like, you would break down a plot or a character and you would work on it with one dedicated cine designer and one dedicated level designer if you were lucky and it wasn't management hell. And, you know, like dedicated QA, and you'd be a small team and you'd bring that plot or whatever to completion together. And in some ways, this is very similar to the way that we would have worked on Dragon Age 2 or Inquisition or whatever, where one pod is just, it's the whole game. But in some ways, it is considerably more responsibility, and it's very weird not having like an entire writer's pit to call me on my bullshit when I'm doing something stupid. I have to be in charge of my own decisions. I'm not adult enough for that. But it is good in a lot of ways. There's an irritating state in AAA where everything is theoretically possible, but nothing is actually possible. There's infinity budget, but maybe there isn't, and you live in this limbo of, well, just do whatever, and if we can't do that, we'll cut it down, which doesn't work usually. And at least here, like, the limits are real and we know what they are, so we can work around them.
We sure know what those limits are.
But, like, I think that in a lot of ways, creative industries benefit from limits. Like, they make things work better. When you know what the box is, then you can start to break the box. If you don't know what the box is, you can't really do anything.
That's true. Like, a big example of that is on pick any Bioware game. It was in Yeah, that.
Sorry about that.
That was perfect for that sentence. Yeah, and pick any Bioware game, and it was in pre-production for at least minimum a year. And a lot of what happened in pre-production never made it to the final game.
Should we define what pre-production is for people who might not know?
Pre-production would be even just like what is, who is, why is, documents, so many documents. Maybe if you're lucky, the engine gets opened once, but a lot of meetings, a lot of documents, a lot of post-it notes on walls, a lot of just what is the soul of the game, what's the target audience, and a lot of, honestly, second guessing. A huge amount of second guessing and research, and, you know, really due diligence goes in too. But I've seen many times over my career, and, you know, no doubt you'll see this across the industry, canceled projects before they even see the light of day, because that initial due diligence wasn't done to a level of satisfaction, or, you know, data analysis or financial backing got pulled, or whatever case it might be. But bigger projects tend to live in that space much longer than indie ones do. We were in that space for 3 whole months, and then we were out of that space. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good point, Sarah, and I think Sarah Mary kind of hit it. It is a little intimidating being such a small studio when we were used to institutional level support in terms of resources and collaborating with a lot of lovely people, some of whom I miss very dearly. But being on a smaller team, it is very gratifying when you're writing something. You don't have forever to reiterate it. It has to go out. You do some editing and trust falls and, okay, give me some feedback. Fantastic. There's a feedback cycle. But it's much more compressed, and being able to get it out there and having something done for people to listen to or play, that is the most satisfying part of game dev for me. And so I really do like the speed of it. It's very pleasing to see that stuff go out there. So
you get
quickly.
the dopamine hit faster.
It's like Dragon Age 2, but not on fire.
Hey, that's questionable.
That's funny because, like, I live in that world because I do make stuff online and post it, and it is very immediate. And most of the time, it's my core audience, and they're fairly chill. It's not like a Dragon Age 2 Veilguard situation where everything's on fire and, like, you're getting death threats.
Yeah, to us, it's novel, which is probably, you're right, it's a good point, bizarre for some people who do work in that cadence normally, but for us, it's a big change.
We've mentioned before on other platforms or whatnot, but, like, sometimes it'd be 7 years before our work hit the market.
Yeah.
And that is a long time to be sitting on I hope they like it for 7 years.
No, I remember when we were doing the Dragon Age Council, we had dinner with the Weekses, and Karen cornered us and was like, I gotta know, do you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah. But she was just grilling us like, no, be honest with me. It's okay. And you could tell she just wanted an answer so bad.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's emotional. There's no way to not be a professional creative and not have an emotional charge connected to what you work on. Part of being professional is that there's a distance of leather you develop between, your deep feelings about a product and then hitting the market. And the more that you put out there, the thicker that leather gets. But it's nice to know the thing you made got seen or heard or
Yeah.
somebody somewhere gave a shit. And that's nice.
Yeah.
You create it to evoke an emotion, and it just sits there on a shelf for so
Oh,
long.
God.
You don't know what's
Oh
going
my
to
God.
happen.
Yeah, or if it gets canceled. That was actually one of the biggest things that made season 2 of the podcast season 2 was just Sylvia needed the emotional closure.
I did. I listened to a fair chunk of audio dramas. I've always liked them, so getting to work on one was very cool. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I came on after season 1. My first work, I think, is the interstitial stuff between season 1 and season 2, and then I've done some season 2 full episodes. Mary and I were alternating. It is an unfortunate reality that some audio dramas just never get finished, and I'm not trying to cast stones because it financing runs out, actors get busy. Other faults can happen. It happens. But, I hate cliffhangers so much. I hate unresolved cliffhangers. Just, especially if I'm getting into a story. And there's been a few times where you listen to something and go, oh, that was great. When's it coming out? And then you see it's been like 10 years since the last update, and you realize, oh dear, this is an abandoned project. And I'm sure the creators weren't happy about it either. So we were all really determined that, hell or high water, we will give a satisfying resolution, hopefully, to this arc, to these characters.
Well,
Perhaps
you already have.
Yeah,
We can mention that.
I mean, yeah, we have to record it. It is written. We just
Yes.
have
It's
to
written, okay.
Yeah.
record it.
We have officially
edit it.
written the a satisfying
Have the
conclusion to
sound, the
season
treatment.
2. Oh yeah, no, and then we decided to make it real, but it is written. All the words are there. The actors are coming through. We're in that process at the moment. And Andrew, our audio guy, continues to be a hero among mortals.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's in the works. That is the one thing, like, I think between us, I did the math once, that between us, we've done over like 200 titles or things that we've worked on and like have hit shelves if you include all the DLCs and the movies and the whatevers. Like actually finishing a thing, I don't think is our problem. And I say that with like all the confidence of not having hindsight yet. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned movie, and I this is so random, but Sarah, you sent me your
God.
LinkedIn.
Oh God, here it comes.
I know. You sent me your LinkedIn because, like, I know Mary, I know Sylvia from my obsession with Dragon Age, and unfortunately, I didn't know your resume. So you're like, okay, here it is, and I saw that you worked on Twilight New Moon. What do you mean?
Okay, so like
Please
if you're
tell me about
familiar,
that.
if you're familiar with the Twilight franchise, occasionally
I am.
their vampires sparkle.
Yes.
Yeah, I put those sparkles on vampires.
When I found this out, I think I was just howling in the office because you should tell them where you worked, like, in the film industry.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, wait, not to really date myself too hard, but I will. So in the early or late aughts, I think, so 2007, I was working out of Vancouver, so I was bouncing around between games and movies, and I did most of my work in film. Like, I put fairy wings on the rock. That is a thing I did
What?
for months. It's called The Tooth Fairy. It's a movie, and I put little stupid wings on the rock. I was a tracking artist for the longest time, which just meant I would align the models every shot. So that's like going 2 frames forward and then doing keyframes on it. It's awful. And then, yes, the most notable one, I worked on Sucker Punch, and it was a movie that came out around that time.
I remember Sucker. I liked Sucker Punch.
Okay, well, I worked on the train scene where they're like fighting robots in the train, and it just doing a lot of camera tracking and that kind of stuff. Lots of math, lots of cameras. But the big one is Twilight New Moon. And
And you made them sparkle?
I made them sparkle, and I I did the head that gets ripped off, and that was just the tracking part of it that I did. There was a team of people, and I was part of a pipeline. And so what I would do primarily is just make it fit so that the CG actually looks like it should be where it's going, and then taking like the actors on the green screens and getting it ready for composition and compositors and things. So yeah, elbows deep. I did a couple little rolls on that, but yeah. So I did like the shots where she jumps off of the cliff into the ocean, or where she's sitting in the chair and the camera orbits around and they change the seasons out the window. I just did a lot of tracking and technical setup and whatnot for that. And yes, an inordinate amount of making vampires sparkle.
It sounds like you loved that. You thought that was such a good creative
I have never drank
decision.
so much on a single project in
my
my
God.
life. Like, it was absolutely like all of us had these mounds of empty like beer cans and whatnot on our desk that the producer would come around with a garbage bag and an arm and would just like stick their arm out in the back of people's desks, and like just the cans would fall into the garbage bag before the client came through. Yeah, lots of late nights, lots of caffeine, lots of alcohol. And so I went to the games industry right after that, never went back.
I don't know what to say about Twilight New Moon.
I think my name is in the credits at the end of it. Yeah. I did some work on G.I. Joe as well. One of the movies. I did like pretty much an IMAX film and all this. It wasn't a long duration I was doing it for, but you ended up touching slates from all different films. Slates being shots from films all across the industry, because it was a outsourcing house. Yeah.
So then I wanted to ask, okay, so you make the move to game dev. What is a realization director?
Jesus. Okay. So because of my backing in film and whatnot, I have an animation degree. I ended up going into the cinematics team at Bioware, and then I became cinematics lead, cinematics director, cinematics supervisor, and then up to realization director. Realization director was a new role at Bioware because a bunch of shuffling was happening in the hierarchy. But the official description of the role was responsible for kind of like taking all the different teams and solving problems. So if there was a problem on the project, like the prologue wasn't really working, they threw Mary and I at it, and where we just tried to untangle all the pieces of the narrative that used to exist. The entire plot structure for the game was another big project that we
spent
just
like a month trying to
several months with
all of the missing pieces.
God.
Yeah.
There was a state of that project, and this happens, and this is part of the not throwing shade. It's just part of what happens. But that project ended up in like all these missions that didn't really connect to each other narratively, and so we ended up like completely in there, elbows like rolled up sleeves for months, just like with this wireframe diagram of the whole game and all the plots and all the stories, and trying to like get them to actually flow together nicely in a way that made sense. And God, that was a project. But yeah, that was my function, was to find problems in the game and then and then work with every department that touches it to create the end user experience.
Do you remember Mass 3? We had the same issue with basically we put a wall of each plot of the game, a picture on a wall that represented each plot of the game and how they linked up and what they meant.
Yeah.
And do you remember when we brought the press through for ME3, they realized we can't take this down easily, but we don't want the press to see it.
We put a sheet over it.
The solution was giant sheets of white paper.
Yeah.
And of course, when the press is coming through, one guy's first response is naturally, "Ooh, what's under here?" So I started lifting, and our head of gameplay basically was going, "Whoa, no!" But yeah, there it was. Mass Effect 3, the entire thing, start to finish, was the sanctity of that was preserved by a sheet of paper.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You put it on the wall in public. If people are wondering, well, why would you do that? It's because the rest of the departments can see it. That way, it's not just sequestered in one room somewhere that anyone can wander by and go, okay, how does this connect up?
Were either of you guys in the hammer meeting for Inquisition?
The meeting where they
Hammer
smashed
meeting?
it with a hammer. No,
Project
we just
Sledgehammer.
heard about it afterwards.
I was in Project Sledgehammer.
Wow.
Yeah.
No,
I was in that room. So that this happens every project. Like, that's why it's no shade. It's just what happens is when you all go off and you build your pieces and then you try to take everybody's pieces and jam them together. That one was taking what Mass Effect did that Sylvia just described, where it's on the wall. That one was an entire boardroom wall of pure Post-it notes. And we were sitting there, like all the highest creative directors and leads and all the big heads of each department. We were locked in a room for about a day, 2 days, of staring at this goddamn wall full of Post-it notes going, hey guys, how do we fix this?
Oh my
We wrote
God.
a plot together. Yeah, that was Project Sledgehammer, because in that one we ended up blowing up the entire Act 1. It was just, this sucks, we need to change it. And yeah, and so the
Oh my
result
God.
of that was, it wasn't Skyhold, it was Haven? The one
Haven was
before
the first.
Skyhold?
Yeah, Haven
Yeah,
was the first.
That
direct.
existed coming out of Project Sledgehammer.
Oh, okay.
Did Haven not exist before that?
That was the meeting
Oh,
that
wow.
decided that we were going
Really?
to do a Haven, yeah.
Oh,
Because
God.
originally the game just threw you straight into Skyhold.
That's
And the
right.
problem we were
Oh.
identifying was that if I wasn't satisfying at all, we didn't earn it. And so that whole, introducing the bad guy where he kicks Haven in the teeth and you go on your big voyage into that all came out of that one meeting.
That is
With
such
all
an iconic moment of Inquisition. I can't imagine that without it. That's crazy.
Well, neither could we, 'cause we're like, this sucks. It needs something. And so we put it in there. But yeah,
You're right.
Yeah, pre Sledgehammer Inquisition was an entirely different game.
it didn't have the teeth. And ultimately, even though it was a wild thing to do to like pour dozen of us in a room, but ultimately it did make a much, much better game. And ultimately, what Mary and I did on Veilguard made it better. Ultimately, that the Post-it notes on the wall for the press being covered up from Mass 3 made it better. It's just, how does the human brain map that much information varies on formatting, I guess.
Well, since we're on the Bioware topic train, let's kind of chase that a little bit. We've heard about, Sarah, what kind of you did for Veilguard, but like, what about the other games? And then Sylvia and Mary, like, I know who you guys have written technically, but like for people who don't know, what have you guys worked on throughout the years? Like, who have you written for? What have you done? Missions?
Do you want to go first, Mary?
Oh, sure. Okay. So I started on Dragon Age Origins. I wrote the characters of Sten and Loghain, and the entire Landsmeet plot, like overall, almost everything that happened in the city of Denerim is my fault
And that's
somehow.
a lot.
Yeah. And then on Dragon Age 2, I wrote Varric and Meryl, and on Inquisition, I wrote Varric and Vivienne, and the Redcliffe plot, and the Halamsharal plot. And then on Veilguard, I wrote Lucanus and Varric, and just Lucanus's personal plot stuff. And then I also worked on Star Wars: The Old Republic. I wrote two of the bounty hunter companions, Mako and Torian. I wrote one of the Jedi Knight companions, Sergeant Rusk. I think he's Jedi Knight. And a bunch of planets, just like random planet arcs. I wrote Hoth. I wrote Quesh. And I worked on Anthem. I don't know how to break down what I did on Anthem.
Neither do I.
Stuff.
Don't worry.
I wrote like all of the radio plays that play in the background in the fort.
Oh, the radio plays are my favorite part.
Okay, good. See? So I did one memorable thing on it. Yeah, I got hired at Bioware after a writing contest that they had. It was literally billed as the contest that could become your career. It was not a subtle way to get people to do the writing application, because they found that generally when they posted writing jobs, people were too intimidated to actually do it. Mm-hmm. Because it required a module sample that you had to build in Neverwinter Nights. And so this just got people to make modules in Neverwinter Nights for their writing application. There were like 300 some applications, and I did not win. I was like number 20. Like it was,
It's pretty good out of 300.
yeah, well, it was judged by community, so it was community votes. But there were Bioware people who played every single module, and I got called like after the right around the time the contest results were announced, I got a call from Bioware, which I was pretty sure at the time was just like a hoax.
Oh,
Like, what? Okay, sure.
and now it's your career. Or what was your career? It's bloomed into this.
Yeah, I used to make the claim that I had lost the contest. Like, I had actually, in fact, only entered it because I wanted the stainless steel coffee mug. That was one of the prizes, which I didn't get because I didn't win the contest. So I
didn't get it.
no. But after I told people, like a couple years after I started, I did an interview where I told people that was why I had started, and then our community guy at the time, Chris Priestley, brought me one.
Aw.
Good. That's come full circle then. Yeah.
That's really cool. What about you, Sylvia? What have you been doing?
So the very first thing I did from BioWare, it was fun to work on, so I'll mention it, was the Cerberus Daily News Network was this thing we had running, I think about a year before Mass Effect 3 launched. And the very first bit of writing I did was just helping Chris Hepler, who was sort of heading it, and Jay Watmaniak, who was the other writer on there. We were basically writing news stories in the world of Mass Effect, which was tremendously fun because you didn't have to worry about the budget at all. You could invent the most far-flung, spectacular news story, and you could just, like, it's text. It's, aside from, like, the writer's work, it's free. And it was really a treat to be allowed to play in that world so freely like that for a bit before getting into voice writing work. It's a little side thing, but I mentioned it because I'm proud of it. I think I did about maybe a quarter of them. And my first credited piece of game writing was Mass Effect 2's Shadow Broker DLC.
Same.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good time. It was a cool DLC. I won't get too into it, but it was the entire team was able to focus on it, so that was a really good way to get my feet wet. I think technically I'm credited on Mass Effect 2 itself, because I came 2 weeks before we certified it, and I did like a little bit of, I'll test this level and see what it's like for 2 weeks, because everyone was testing and playing it. I played it 8 times in 2 weeks. Great game.
My God.
I still haven't burned out a wonderful game. Can't take any credit for anything that was in it. I found a few bugs, but Shadow Broker. So for Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 3, I took over writing Liara. I didn't invent Liara, but I got to basically be her character writer and voice overview on that game. Specific missions, geez Louise. This is the problem. I remember the numbers, but not like the proper mission titles. If a developer is ever confused about what they've made, it's because we have 15 versions in our head. Players get to see the final version. We have like quantum realities split off in our heads about what was and was not. But yeah, the mission in the Geth Virtual Consciousness, rescuing the Admiral on the Quarian homeworld, and the Ariakshi Monastery were my 3 big missions there. Those were really fun.
Oh God, that one scared the shit out of me.
It was really that was a fun one to do because it was a more eerie one, which was very enjoyable. Then my next thing was Inquisition, which is where I first worked with Mary. Sarah and I were back on the Mass Effect train, but Mary and
I hopped all the projects. I did all of them.
This is true, you did.
Yeah.
So Inquisition, and where I wrote Josephine was my girl there. She was really fun to come up with and write. Crestwood, the Crestwood Wilderness area, the Hissing Waste Wilderness area, and the
Western Approach. I forgot.
Oh God, the cool. Oh, this is driving me nuts. The cool swamp area with the undead.
Fallenmeyer.
Thank you, the Fallenmeyer. That underwent a few name changes, which is why I was trying to remember it.
Would you say that foreshadowed Emmerich a little?
Just kind of coincidentally, but it was a pretty cool area. I mean, pure coincidence, but yeah. And then, oh God, what was the name of the mission? The Temple of Mythal mission, where you go to the Temple of Mythal.
What Pride had wrought.
Thank you.
It's like a quiz show. This is great.
Thank you, God. Right, that was my big mission chunk there, and then I worked on the Trespasser DLC and the Jaws of Hakon DLC, and those are fun to do. And then after that was Anthem. Anthem underwent changes. So what I worked on primarily, I think, got swept up in one of the changes. It's kind of one of those things that happens in the industry. Ultimately, there's a lot of over there barks in Anthem that are mine, like a ton of those support work. There's nothing I can really point to concretely other than we should fight X, like 15 variants of that. Oh gosh.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's not the most glamorous work, but we got it in and it existed there. After that, on to Veilguard, where I wrote Emmerich and the Morn Watchers, and the what's the name of it's the Tearstone Island plot. I just can't remember what we called it. Oh God!
Did that ship as Mother of Monsters, or was it something else? Okay.
No, it didn't. Because you're right. Like again, yeah, that's the old
yeah,
title.
This is we have 15 working titles.
Yeah.
I don't remember much about Anthem, but I thought you also wrote Faye, didn't you? Or no?
No, that was. Oh gosh, who did end up writing Faye?
I wrote Faye.
I
wrote Faye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you forget it?
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
like it's hard to remember how it broke down.
Because she had. Wasn't someone else the writer for Faye before?
Was there somebody else, or was it
Alex,
always me?
I thought.
I don't know. I wrote like half of the critical path on Anthem, and I don't even remember how it broke down, except
It went through. That game went through a lot of changes.
Yeah.
I'm getting the sense that Anthem was a bit of a mess.
what? Yeah, it was.
I don't
It
think
was
that's.
several trains on fire hitting a dumpster.
I don't think it's secret that was a rough development.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move on from that one.
Thank you.
Sarah, you said that you joined at Mass Effect 3. Is that right?
No, I joined at Lair the Shadow Broker. So when Sylvia was doing her first writing there, I was the one that made all the animations for when you put the switches in and the little plugs, and there's like a big lens flare shot on the top of the ship. That
On
was
top
me.
of the Shadow Broker ship.
Yeah, that was me.
Ship.
That was the very first stuff I did for Bioware. And then I helped with some of the talking to, what was that little ball thing?
Oh, Glyph.
Glyph, yeah, I did some of the
Glyphy.
Glyph conversations, yeah.
Glyph didn't have a name at the time. Like we only named Glyph in Mass Effect 3.
Oh, right.
I believe my internal name was Droney.
Yes, you called it a drone.
Journey, yeah.
Because it's a little VR drone.
Yeah, that was the first one I did. But like I said, I've touched at least the smallest amount of time I was on ever a Bioware project was 3 months, and that was at the end of Anthem. And that was just helping with bug fixing and a couple more conversations that needed to be polished up. But no, I'll give you the TLDR on my things that fans have seen that I've done is the romances. So yeah, let's just do the shotgun version here. So the first character, much like writers, cinematic artists tend to get and designers tend to get characters assigned to them, so that we end up kind of like surgically attached to the writer, asking them all kinds of inane questions, like when they sit in the chair, would they reach for the coffee first or the knife? And like those kind of like trying to get in their brain just to understand the character, because ultimately the cinematic artist is responsible for the performance of the character on screen when they take that beat to, look down or be bashful or God, the puppy eyes from Fenris and DA2. That's all. Fenris was my first character that I owned. As a cinematic, through there. So I did, all his romance stuff, all his arc, which is hilarious because people will go through that game and never get him as a follower. And I'm like, aw. But a lot of his stuff I did. And then I also ended up touching the prologues and finales of almost every game that got done. So not Meredith's rocket boots, that wasn't me. But the scene afterwards was like the scene right before it, where she's like going crazy and draws her knife on her sword on everybody.
Oh yeah.
That scene's mine.
Nice.
And I think I also did the inverse of that, where not the one where all the bodies conform into Orsino's. What's his name?
Mushball.
Yeah, it's not
The harvester.
Yeah, not the harvester action itself. Like you can kind of tell in those older games exactly when the handoff was between in-engine animations and like pre-render. Yeah. So I was the in-engine side of everything for that kind of stuff. Did a whole bunch and just like little bits and pieces throughout the crit path there. I didn't actually get to work with Varric very much at all. I was not
No,
sure.
Varric was all John Epler.
Yeah, he was John Epler, yeah. And then moving on to Mass Effect 3 was my next title, where I had Garrus, Grunt, Jack, Caden, and which of course comes with Ashley sometimes. But I didn't do all of Ashley's stuff. Mostly Garrus was my big hands on that project. And then I did some prologue stuff. So when Vancouver explodes and you're running around dodging things and ships blowing up and stuff, I did some work there. And then, of course, in finale. And then all of the romance scenes for ME3, I ended up being the cinematic designer on. So I was working closely with our cinematic animation counterparts and, yeah, making sure all the smooches smooched for all the different versions. And I also did the Mass Effect Citadel DLC. I was the cinematic lead for that one, as well as Leviathan. And now Leviathan, I did all of the like Anne possession stuff where she screams like the glass shatters behind her and stuff. Oh god. And then we also did the mocap shoot. So I've been directing mocap shoots for quite a while, even through the stuff I was just saying. But yeah, we built like, the guys at the mocap stage, I didn't hold a hammer. I was just too busy being impressed by their work. But they actually built this like out of plywood, I can't even remember what it was, but like the suit that you're in, like the
Oh my god. Like a mech suit.
yeah. But it's made out of like plywood and bits. So we actually had the actor, go in, open, like physically grab the handle and rear back and open the cockpit that you then slide into and stuff. So I got to be like, helping to pilot this, holding the pieces of plywood so it doesn't, hit anybody in the head as they're going in and out and that kind of stuff. And then, worked with the actual tango dancers for Garrus's tango and got all that stuff shot. Citadel was a wild, super fun. It was just a love letter to the fans for Citadel. Did all like him Shepard falling down the stuff and lots of things there. And then Inquisition, I was lead cinematics for Inquisition. And that was a hell ride. Our tools were garbage on that project, and I am so impressed that the team got anything out the door. But we did. I did all the romances on that one except for I did not do Black Walls. I shot almost all the mocap for the romances, I should say. Because I was the lead at that point. My only real character was Cullen for that scene. So I hand did all of his scenes, but everybody else's was just kind of more like I would, advise or drop in and help or give direction. So mad props to all the cinematics folks who did lots of work on that one. I also did the big boss confrontation. I did a lot of confrontation stuff with the boss. And now you shall die. Wait, no, I'm going to die. And then, those scenes over and over again. Lots just spattering, but yeah. So Garrus, Cullen, Caden, Fenris, yeah. Then I was over to Andromeda for a while. Got that thing across the finish line. And I did all the romance scenes on that one again, working closely with a bunch of people. Like, I'm not the only person doing these, but I will say mad props to Courtney and Katie from Austin there, who just decided that we were going to get Reyes's bisexual romance into the game. And that only happened because of volunteered time and pure frustration. Yeah, because we're like, he was written as bisexual. He was intended to be bisexual. We wanted to get more male romance options for the male protagonist. That only happened over weekends and purely volunteered time to get that through. So I will never stop singing their praises for that.
Well, huge thank you to them, because I know Ray is very popular romance.
Yeah. Well, the male version would not have existed without their very direct volunteered time. So lots of that. And then back over to Veilguard. Oh, no, sorry, there was Anthem in between. I think I face planted and just drooled at a wall for a while. But it was back over to Anthem for a couple months just to help out. And then we were making, as was Morrison, that turned into eventually Veilguard, because that codename was released to the public, I think. And so that was my last one at Bioware. And on that one, I did a lot of the storyboarding stuff. Eventually, all those 2D scenes that kind of like describe things with the big colorful cards. So I was running the team that did that. And then I was the cinematic supervisor and cinematic director for that project for a long time. However, I did not final it. Big props to Tim Gollum, who took that over from me. And then that was the realization director, so I was off, fighting larger dragons than the cinematics themselves. And that's the grand total of my very complicated resume. Yes.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Yeah.
We will get into that in a second. So I'm going to flip back over to Mary. I'm going to pick on you.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. This is the part where I get to live my wildest dreams and ask you lore questions. I'm sorry. So, Mary, it is my understanding, because I believe it was Gator who said it before, that you wanted to kill Varric since Dragon Age 2.
Yes and no. So on Dragon Age 2, I really wanted him to have a fake death because he was the narrator, and it would have been hilarious for him to be in the middle of his melodramatic description of his death to then cut to Cassandra's face, just looking at him going, "You died."
You wrote that. You wrote
I
that.
did in fact write that
I
scene.
remember that.
But we couldn't fit it. I didn't have the budget to fit it into his actual plot, which was unfortunate.
Aww.
Yeah, because DA2 was written in literally in 3 months. The entire crit path. had to be
No, the
written.
whole thing went
Oh my
from
God.
pretty much an idea to
Yeah.
on the shelf in 10 months.
So yeah, I desperately wanted a fake out death for Varric because it would have been hilarious and it would have been so in character for him
I feel like I saw the raw mocap for that
to
too.
make up his melodramatic death. And then, so after DA2, we had planned to do an expansion, Exodus, which didn't see the light of day, but Gator had planned for Varric to sacrifice himself at the end of Exodus. There was going to be a big red lyrium Meredith growth thing in the gallows
God.
that he would sacrifice himself to destroy. And I was on board with that completely because Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan was one of my favorite movies as a kid. So, yeah, spoilers for a 40-year-old movie, but the beloved best friend character sacrificing himself to save the ship was really impactful for me as a kid. And so, yeah, I was 100% on board with Varric. And it also felt like it was a good progression for his character because he starts out at the beginning of DA2 not completely irresponsible, but dwelling in that zone of irresponsibility where he hides out in the hangman from everybody that he's supposed to be working with, and he just avoids reality. So getting to this point where he would take responsibility so much that it would be the death of him felt like kind of a good place for him to go as a character. But then, of course, Exodus didn't happen. So then we moved on to Inquisition, and a lot of the plot points from Exodus got moved directly into Inquisition. And Dave had again, wanted to have a sacrifice at the end to defeat Corypheus. It was either going to be Varric or Dorian.
Oh.
Depending on the choice you made, one of the two of them would sacrifice themselves
Yeah, I remember that.
for you to be able to defeat Corypheus. And that got cut because it really it was hard to pace it into the ending with all the other stuff that was happening.
Yeah.
Solus is also going to run off with this orb, and there just wasn't time for everything to fall into place and for you to have an opportunity to react to everything. So that got cut. But there are still there's a lot of little bits that I left in Varric's writing that were meant to foreshadow his death, which didn't happen.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's the reason why Bianca has that line about if you get him killed, she's gonna kick your ass.
Oh, that's why.
Because you could have gotten him killed.
You're evil.
Oh, no.
No, that's
Yes.
evil. I disagree. That's very funny.
So then, yeah, I wasn't on the planning for Veilguard, but I was on Anthem at the time, and Trick, and I think Jepler at one of the company meetings afterwards, grabbed me as we're there's buffet to go get snacks, and they're like, so we were thinking of killing off Varric and Veilguard, and I'm like, it's about time.
Finally gonna do it. Gonna get that guy.
Writing has been on the wall.
Yeah.
Because I'm that person. How did so you we just talked about Bianca saying get him killed and then I'll make you eat your eyeballs.
Yeah.
Rook did get him killed. How's Bianca taking that, you think?
I feel like she would want revenge, except that it's technically Solus's fault and she can't get revenge on him.
I bet that pisses her off.
Oh God, yeah. I don't know what she would do at that point. Like, because, yeah, she is probably pissed off somewhere, but I don't know what she's going to do about it now.
Impotent rage? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, invent something that makes fun of Rook? I don't know at this point.
Hunt herself a Veilguard, I guess?
Maybe?
Do you think Varric and Bianca just kept their weird, I don't even know how to define, situationship, I guess is the closest thing? Was that the whole time? Did he ever get over her? Did she ever get over him? Or
I don't think Varric was ever really trying to get over Bianca. So, okay, how do I put this? One of the core aspects of Varric's personality is that he pretends that he's very detached. Like, he protects himself with a layer of bullshit too thick to be penetrated by anything. And so he would pretend that he was detached from the whole drama of what happened with him and Bianca, but he kept that close. Like, that's one of the reasons why he never willingly tells the story of what happened between him and Bianca, because it's like this deep wound that he doesn't want to let go of. And he hangs on to resentments forever. That was like, it was something he didn't want to let go of. More than Bianca necessarily, but the anger that he had towards basically all of Dwarven society for what happened. Varric's life is like a sequence of being repeatedly kicked by his own culture in different ways that he manifests through really passive-aggressive behavior.
like never having a beard and all that?
Yeah, like never having a beard. Like, he deliberately avoids every contact with the merchant guild. He's got to make, like, really snide comments about Orzammar whenever it comes up. He won't tell you anything about Bianca, even when she's there. Like,
I guess some of us were wondering, because he did have a sort of a beard in Veilguard, if that was a sign of healing, or nah, it just been a minute and he lost his shaving mirror.
he didn't have his shaving mirror. Yeah, he was in the middle of nowhere. He hates travel. He doesn't have any travel equipment.
So, Mary, I'm curious about Lucanus. You were laid off by Bioware about a year before the game shipped because they value profits over people. I'm still angry about this. But can you tell me what inspired Lucanus as a character?
Yeah, so first of all, props again to Courtney Wood, because she was the originator of the Lucanus concept.
Oh.
I think I took him in somewhat of a different direction than she initially had him, but the basics of Lucanus and Spite, and obviously she wrote his stories into Winter Nights, so she was setting him up from the beginning. But I know she had drawn inspiration from like Jekyll and Hyde and Peaky Blinders, and obviously John Wick has been one of the major influences on his character. Definitely I took more John Wick, I think.
With a caffeine habit, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I love about John Wick as a character concept is that the fundamental question in his conflict isn't whether or not he's going to survive the fight or whether or not he's going to get his target. It's how much of John, that guy with the puppy at the start of the first movie, is still alive at the end. Literally, this is why they cut off one of his fingers, spoiler, again, for John Wick 3, because taking pieces of that guy away is the actual hurt to John Wick. So Lucanus, as a character, is very much about how he's trying to maintain his grip on Lucanus, the human being, despite everything.
Is that why you described him as, I forget where it was said, but I believe you described him as a disaster?
Oh, he is, unquestionably, he is a disaster. If you look at everybody else in the cast of Veilguard, they all have their shit together except for Lucanus. Everybody else has, chosen a job and they know what they're doing, and Lucanus you have to rescue out of a prison at the bottom of the ocean, and everybody in his family is trying to kill him.
Mary, my last question to pick on you with. So flipping through the art book, there, at least going from the Joplin Morris and stuff, there was this picture that has lived in my brain of ghilan'nain sacrificing Sten to open an alluvion. What was that about?
I think that was just like they did a lot of tone drawings, which is pretty common. Dragon Age had tons of them. And in fact, like on Inquisition, there was one that I 100% just took and like, I want to base Vivienne's plot around this. But like, they're not necessarily attached to anything. They're just exploring like what the feel of the game is. Because Sten, like, briefly Luke had him making an appearance in a plot, maybe, but
a very
that plot got
early-
cut early.
but it didn't have like he was never really in the game necessarily. So I don't think that was an actual plot point at any.
No, it never came up when I was.
Yeah,
on
I think
either.
that was just like a tone exploration of like the kind of creepy shit that was happening.
That's part of that pre-production thing we were talking
Yeah.
about. Is where we're in that what if, do we even want this? And like story art and concept art are huge pieces of that because it inspires people from all different departments to pull from, or more importantly, inspires them about what they don't want. Yeah, it's actually even more useful. It's going, actually, no, we're not that.
That was another thing I've noticed with the art direction or art tone pieces. I don't know what to call them. But like ghilan'nain had human ears at one point. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting choice. Like, was she like a human turned into ebon or something like that?
I think that's. Don't quote me. I this is so far back in the thing. I'm not sure, but I think there was one version where the gods at first tried to appear as Tevinter's human-looking gods, like human incarnations of their gods.
Oh, God.
And like to hide. And I think the idea is that if the glamour was dropped, they would look. Well, ghilan'nain already looks pretty gnarly underneath, and that Elgar'nan would be more blight corrupted. So it was they're monsters. Again, very far back, so it never got past pre-production or sketch stage. So I don't think it ever made it into writing or anything like that. But that was a very early idea. So that's probably what that was.
Got it. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. One more going back to Sten real quick. So Sten in Dragon Age Origins, his kind of plot was that he lost his sword, and you bring it back and kind of like get him back into his culture and his honor, and just and Veilguard, he lost the Antam as the Arishok, which is like arguably his sword again. So I feel like there is sort of like a echo of that. How do you think he's handling all that right now?
I mean, I think he's probably not happy about it, but I also feel like for the Qunari in general, for the Triumvirate to have lost the entire Antam, and in Trespasser they lost like all of the Ben Hasrath, something bigger is going on in Pulvaran, almost certainly. And I think like we had wanted to foreshadow some of it, but I don't know how much actually made it in that there is bigger shit going down to the Qunari right now, which is why they're not doing much to deal with the rebellions and people are jumping ship.
Yeah, I can't remember if I remember. Yeah, the idea that we would thread in some hints that there is something going on in Pulvaran tied to the ending. I can't remember how much was still in there because it was when we say shading, it was like a codex here, one line there. But yeah, I remember
because it was meant to be like setting up some of where the plot was going to go after Veilguard, but
yeah.
I don't know how much of that actually made it into the game in the end.
This is me just like, because I don't think we'll ever get a Dragon Age 5, so this is me like mining for ideas. But like, do you think like that's Executor related or something else?
We definitely threaded the Executors into the end of Veilguard.
Well, there had also been like, I don't know how much it came across, but there had been an idea sort of hinted in the Qunari lore that they fled to Parvalan from across the sea. They were fleeing something in their original homeland, and that is the thing that has pursued them now. But I don't know how much of that actually will happen.
Yeah.
We've definitely gotten hints of that. It's just, we've always wondered, like, what does that look like? And I know that's not something you've probably explored in depth or anything, so I don't want to, like, sit here and ask questions you don't have answers to. But, like, yeah, no, we've definitely picked up on that. So it's nice to get that, like, confirmation that that.
Yeah, like, I think the reality is a lot of the stuff lives in the quantum foam.
Yeah, where what form it would have taken would have depended on how it went in development, because you start out with one idea and that is not what it comes out as in the end.
No.
Yeah. There's some stuff like that does stay that like become what you think of as pillars of the game, and then there's other stuff where like you thought it was zig and it zags.
And I get that. I think knowing that we probably won't get another Dragon Age, I like knowing what was in that quantum bubble of what ifs. I find that kind of interesting.
Yeah, I imagine it has to be tantalizing because it's such a huge world too, with so many little threads. Like, no one never asked me. I would always kind of stare at the map and go, "What's up with the waste, the ash waste in the lower? I think it's the southern west corner of the map." It seemed such a tantalizing, weird, eerie place. I was like, "Ooh, it'd be fun to do something there." And like, but again, like, Dragon Age is full of cool pockets of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. I'm gonna look this up on the map now because I don't want to disgrace myself. I'm hoping it's in the place where I think it is.
Well, Sylvia, if I could pick on you, I guess this is a whole team question, but so I believe you wrote for ghilan'nain, yes?
Yes. So I'm literally looking this up as we're typing. So if I sound distracted, I'm going to find where the ash waste. I'm gonna confirm.
I have the map on my computer. I could.
I'm sorry, I've just derailed us, and that's just gonna bother me. Gosh darn it.
There's the Gamordian Peaks. There's the Abyssal Reach. Is that what it is? A Sea of Ash?
The Sea of Ash. Oh my god. Yes, thank you. It is the Sea of Ash, not the Ash Waste. I think there's an ash waste in some other thing I know, and that's why I don't know. But yeah, Sea of Ash. Thank you. Yeah, that place just sounded like it just sounds so ominous. I'm like, ooh, what's over there? Sorry, I've derailed us completely. But you were asking about ghilan'nain. Yes, ghilan'nain. She was fun to write. I'd always wanted to write. Oh, she and Argonon. They were sort of a fun pair. To deal with because they had so much history together, and their relationship was not bad or anything. Like they're probably the only two people who, three if you count Solus, could relate to each other in this modern age. Not only that, but also those two did get along. Like they were not jealous of each other's domains. Last survivors of the old empire. So yeah, and if I have any regret, it's that we couldn't get more face time with the gods. It would have been enjoyable to write, but it would have been difficult to shoehorn in with everything else going on and the way development went. But no, I did like writing her. She was an odd duck. As the great monster creator, I didn't want her to be totally bonkers. She is technically rational. She's just so displaced in space and time and so sort of down her own particular avenues of research. She's not a normal person anymore. On top of the blight, on top of the accumulation of age and so on.
I love ghilan'nain so much.
I'm glad to hear that.
How did you see the relationship with her and Andrew?
It's funny because again in the quantum foam, if you handed that to another, I think it would really depend which writer you handed it to. Because I wouldn't think of myself as in charge of that. Like it, because Andrew never had an assigned writer. If you ask,
Andrew is very dead.
Yeah, the death part.
Yeah.
If you had to pin me down, I think it was probably very intense and very weird. I wouldn't say people like people like to throw around the word toxic a lot. I don't think it would be that. Probably very intense and private. There was this fun exchange we got to do in a codex entry where you find Solus, who's written a missive to both ghilan'nain and Elgernon, trying to talk them down, like in the old days, before everything. The veil, the whole bit with the veil, the cataclysm, and so on and so forth. It was fun because Trick, who owns Solus's voice, lead writer Trick Weeks, they wrote Solus's letter. And then I got to write ghilan'nain's reply to him, and that was, Solus is trying to appeal to ghilan'nain's intellect, her better nature. He mentions Andrew there. In the lore, Andrew elevates ghilan'nain from a servant with potential to, actual godhood, she's ghilan'nain's sponsor. So you might expect Andril to be the more driving force in the relationship. And I had ghilan'nain simply respond with, Andril supports me in this as in all things. Paraphrasing my own words here. And I dropped that as a little sort of note to perhaps like the dynamics weren't so straightforward, is that perhaps there was some wariness on Andril's part at ghilan'nain's skills. I think the legends do hint at that. Like, please stop making monsters. There's too many. You can keep a few. Just honey, sweep. Just get rid of the other ones. They're eating people. Oh my god. So there might have been some caution there. There might have been some. It might have been less of a power difference than people think. Maybe. Again, it's that quantum foam thing. I think it'd be fun to play around with all of that stuff.
I loved that codex because to me it was like skill issue soulless. The Evanurus I fell in love with actually likes me back.
He tried. He tried. He tried talking down two of the most stubborn people on that pantheon. I mean, maybe the rest of the pantheon was just as stubborn.
And like, I guess just opening up to everybody. Is there any headcanons or quantum foam about the other Evanurus and what they were like?
I do kind of think that June was probably like the weird solo child. The god of arts and crafts is just off doing their own thing, but it's like evil arts and crafts.
Oh no, he's me.
I was wondering about that, because June's kind of the sort of like there is a bit of a sense of distance from June and the rest of the pantheon. I don't think there's a lot of interactions between them.
Yeah, there aren't. Like canonically, there's not a lot of interactions between June and the rest of the pantheon, and I feel like they were probably the youngest child. Like, they're not close to the twins. They're not close to Andrul. That was the last archdemon. And their Evanurus soul wound up mostly interested in fashion, critiquing Morrigan. I do vaguely wonder, though, if maybe part of the reason that Flemeth wanted June's soul was because June was her favorite.
I think I was the one who... We had the twins, and when I was doing work on the Temple of Mythal section in Inquisition, you found a lot of codex entries and a lot of writing that was... Because this is a relatively untouched elven ruin, it was us seeding some of the first truer to the source material. Especially if you bring Solus, who has like little if you ever bring Solus to the temple and he's there with you, most Dragon Age, I think the Dragon Age super fans will know this. He has commentary and all the god stuff. He will argue with Morrigan about interpretations. He's just probably the poor guy's probably just seething, going, "Oh no, that's not how it was." And one of the codex entries, so you have Felindin and Dirthalen. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I know a little bit more about the origins of the gods because I got to the secret, the insight, from Dave and everyone else when I joined the Dragon Age team. And I thought, the concept of having twins or brothers or siblings at all, because these are spirits instantiating themselves it doesn't quite make sense. I don't think they can't be literal brothers. They don't have a mother. It must be some other relationship. And they could be very close, but I think I seeded that first bit in there where we have this... I remember posing it to the writing team, where we sort of had this one scholar going, I don't think brother is actually the correct term for it. It's just the closest we can come to. And I believe in Veilguard we finally sort of dropped the idea that this is one spirit that kind of broke in half when it gave itself bodies, because they were just trying it out for the first time. And it seemed to be sort of a fun idea that this is kind of the same entity that just didn't get how physics and physical material works, so it got split off. So, still brothers in a camaraderie sense, but that was kind of a fun thing to add. It's just because it's a bizarre existence that was just fun to hint at.
So, like, from the beginning, they had split apart and to become two entities.
That was my take on it. I can't remember who talked more about it in Veilguard, if it was me or someone else. It might have been Trick. Maybe don't quote me at this, but this is an audio format. I'm not entirely sure who wrote that bit, but I think we dropped a little more of that then, and it was just kind of a fun little detail that was enjoyable to pop in.
I also want to talk about the liches.
Oh, heck yeah.
Let's talk liches. So, what made you want to bring liches into Dragon Age?
Well, my honest My honest first answer is I just like them. They're my favorite undead. They're cool. They're regal. They're imposing. You kind of have like two liches. Your fancy high court liches and your born in a swamp lich. And the Mournwatch necromancy tends towards the first. They're old. They have standards. And liches were a fun thing to drop into Dragon Age. Dragon Age tends to take some, quote unquote classical fantasy tropes and always finds a little like a new angle on them or a way to situate them into the cultures of the world that reflects that culture specifically. So, you don't just have a werewolf, you have people who've been cursed via a chain of elven magic. Dragons exist, but the archdemons have a weird relationship to the world and magic and the elven souls, which is kind of cool. So for the liches, I really wanted to situate them in Navarra's particular culture, which I got to make up a lot of stuff whole cloth because no one told me no. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
You just kept like handing us scripts, and we're just like, okay, I guess we're making this now.
You are.
Yep. You still do that to this day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's, I did think they were a good sort of ultimate test of Emmerich's personal character, which was also important. Like, without Emmerich, there would have been no liches. Like, it might have been like a cool codex to hint at something down in the necropolis. There's always something down in the necropolis.
Yeah.
But the liches were specifically crafted to also reflect Emmerich's journey, and of course his big choice.
So like in the files of Veilguard, we have found that like all three liches, like there's a male, female, and a non-binary lich. At least that's the what it breaks down to. Like, do you have any like, I forgot what we were already calling it, quantum foam about who they were? Or
I do, and to be clear, there's more than the three liches. I think there's
Oh.
probably, in my head, I can't remember if it got into the scene. I think we originally had wanted maybe a gallery of shadowy silhouettes, but we just went, that's nutty expensive. Let's not do that. This is already... Emmerich is an expensive man. Thank you, everyone who
What,
worked...
getting a giant bone goal?
Yeah.
It was cheap. What are
Yeah.
you talking about?
God bless everyone who did that, despite the fact that thank you, everyone. But no, so but yeah, originally when Emmerich is going, if he decides to become spoilers for Veilguard, if he decides to become a lich, he walks into the gallery, and there was going to be like, I'd say a few dozen. I don't want to put a number on it. And again, because you ever see them? Is this canon? Further canon is in my mind, yes, but whatever. But those three, yes, were the ones just basically tending to the ceremony, making sure everything went well. And yeah, I did have some ideas. One of my ideas was that the oldest of them would have been an elf, not an ancient elf, like a Navarran, an elf who was Navarran, but maybe an elf who was researching some of the old magic and first figured out how to become a lich, how to essentially quickly grab your soul and stuff it back into your corpse before it goes to wherever souls go in Dragon Age, which is always something we've kind of left, a topic of faith. But yeah, and that was kind of my only headcanon, but I did like, to my mind, those three liches are probably also from different eras, so they probably do have arguments over history and what happened. They would be the worst people to invite to a LARP, because they were there. Just much like Soul is just inwardly going, "Oh, that's not what happened." Like it's gonna be that.
Never invite a lich to a LARP is now just gonna live rent free in my head.
I was just
Smell
like
a t-shirt.
just like this like minor army of undead ghouls and beasts, just so this undead nerd can berate you because that crossbow isn't the crossbow that was used at the battle. You're like, it's just, oh god. But yeah, I did have some vague ideas. If there had ever been a DA5 and I was involved, like I huge if, right? Because just some. I always like to do some sort of future planning notes for myself, just in case. Scribbled down some ideas, how they would interact with you, and would they come back? In the world with the most resources, it'd be really cool if in this fantasy of in this game that doesn't exist, in this thing that never happened, but if they only showed up if Emmerich was a lich, otherwise they were just rumors and whispers, but you never knew about them really, or just something secondhand. But anyhow, sorry, that's just a big ramble on stuff.
Because I know phylacteries are already a thing in Dragon Age. Do these liches have like a sort of phylactery? Or even is like the Mage Circle phylacteries secretly based on this? Just blah, blah, blah.
That's actually a really good question, because traditionally in D&D, phylacteries have been associated with Lich, and that's kind of the mother of the Western RPG influence for a lot of places. I don't think they have an exact phylactery. I think they probably have something they probably have some sort of similar limitation. It might be the necropolis is their spawn point. It might be if you did something terrible there, you could kill one permanently, you could destroy one permanently. I think like a god level power like an Elgornon or a Ghilan'nain could probably perma-destroy a Lich, but otherwise you might have issues. But that's a great question. Yeah, I didn't think it was analogous. At one point, I think we did have a sort of an equivalent of a soul dress sort of thing, but we got rid of it because it added complications to the plot, which is already pretty complex. And I don't think it was a huge loss. It would have been just come to think of it, I think it was in a scene that got deleted that never existed. Yeah,
Quantum foam.
Yeah, I think I wrote it, and that was part of the feedback, and it was that chunk of stuff we cut. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Because at one point, like when you turn him into a Lich, they do walk out with like a jar that's bloodied.
Oh yeah, that's Emmeric's organs. Emmeric's organs.
They just keep that around.
That's just how you mummify people.
I think it was sort of a Vorgoth wipes the knife, which is God bless the cine people worked on that. It looks so cool. I loved what they did with that scene. They were heroes. The knife, which is the same knife. I mean, I believe that knife. I think I slipped that note in there. It's Emmeric's father's knife. His butchering knife, which he thought was, just emotionally significant. And yes, in the jars are Emmeric's organs, just for contemplation.
We have to have something to stare at in your trophy wall. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to move on to what you guys are working on now. So can you, for the past year, you guys have been releasing episodes of the Concierge audio drama. So can you give me a little bit of backstory on how you guys made the world of the Concierge?
You can't see that Sarah and I are just staring at each other.
We both took a deep breath and sync. Oh, God. So we fused our brains, apparently.
Okay.
No, thank goodness. That's too much crazy for one skull to handle. No, we found that we have a complementary madness, and then we put it on paper. And, I think we just started from what doesn't exist in the world. And I personally am a huge fan of John Wick again. What? Huh? Where? Yeah. And we just sort of kind of went from there, like, you know what we don't have enough of? Canadian John Wicks. Hey, do you know what we should do? Like, but put a twist on it, because Mary is phenomenal for being like, it'd be hilarious. And then we just say yes to that, and it gets you to season 1 of The Concierge. So, I don't know, what was your take on it?
Yeah, well, we did start with John Wick, so if The Concierge is not kind of a giveaway, we were kind of looking at, what is the name of the hotel? The Continental?
The Continental, yeah.
Yeah. And we were really taken with not the actual assassins in John Wick, all the people who have to do all the work to support the assassins, which was pretty much where the audio drama came directly from.
Yeah.
It's all of the back of the house
Support staff,
plus Clue, effectively.
Not so much for the audio drama. The audio drama, I think it all kind of started, like, the core IP thing is that somebody likes Pterodex staring at you.
What?
And, just sort of started digging into, what is, and it just felt kind of, because Mary and I both got laid off, it just kind of felt like a chance to... There's a term at the end of every game development project that's called the postmortem on it, where you sit down and you kind of go through what really worked, what strategies you want to take into the next project. And then we are a sucker for puns, so it just kept going and going, so that it became the actual postmortem on a failed mission to Red Deer, and then that kept going. And then I reached out to the donut mill and I was like, hey, can we kill people fictionally in your lobby? And they were like, parking lot. And I was like, cool. Yeah, they're excellent. And then it just started like... part of the funding things that we were talking about earlier, working with the Canadian government and stuff, it kind of led us to the path of like, well, what if we made it very, very, very Canadian? And what if we started making it like really local? And between Mass Effect, which takes place in like proper space opera sci-fi, and, you know, DA that is proper fantasy, what if we did something a bit more contemporary? Because, you know, we haven't done much of that in our careers. Just wanted something fresh and new and different to kind of play with. And the podcast, you'll hear, you won't see so much, but you'll hear, we're playing. It's not a finished, perfect product. It's the act of us playing as we are finding the voice of the world, finding what's too much, finding what works and what feels good and what doesn't. And we're doing that kind of publicly and live. So for everything that we've been talking about with everything else that we've been talking about so far in this, it's, you know, those years and years of what if and should we and quantum foam, we're kind of making that real, and we're releasing it instead of sitting on it. And that was a conscious choice that we made. Part of that is just, we're an indie studio. If we don't make things, we don't exist. So we got to get to making things as fast as possible. But part of it is just, who knows what's going to happen with it, and just to get it out there. And the act of making makes more things. So because we've started to get out there, people are starting to, you know, they found us, or they're listening to us, or, you know, for example, folks like you and the other Bioware fans out there are like, oh, wait, these people who wrote stories and characters that you love with are still writing stories and characters that are still, you know, kind of, we're still making. And I think that's because we all have a chronic addiction to doing so.
So can you, for those who have not had the chance to listen yet, can you give me like a quick elevator pitch on like the world and the audio drama, The Concierge?
Sure. So The Concierge takes place in a very near future, like what, 10 years from now?
10 years from now.
10 years from now. In a underworld kind of situation, not quite John Wick's underworld, but hidden beneath the surface. Similar to the Continental, spy agencies operating out of what look like public establishments, bars and hotels and restaurants and whatever else.
I like the tagline you came up with, Sarah, if you want to.
What, Murder, Mayhem, and Maple Syrup?
Yeah.
It's the other one, actually.
That was for the game. Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what our tagline was when trying to describe this to... so I was like posting on the audio drama website saying, hey, we have this, people, if you want to listen. And I was like, how do I describe this thing? And you came up with, I think over lunch, you sort of came up with the phrase spy thriller office drama.
Yeah. That's yes.
It's a good, I think it encapsulates a lot of what you two kind of brewed up.
Well, that actually comes back to, and like, it's kind of the beauty of it's very like empowering, releasing, I don't know, for us to be able to put our works in progress, which is functionally what the audio drama is. It's a work in progress that got released instead of us sitting on it. And part of that, as listeners, you'll hear us get better at audio, get better at writing specifically for a audio drama format, which none of us had ever done before. And you'll also feel the tone of the story shift as we are, like, with the images that were done, you know, for Dragon Age that we were mentioning before, that pre-production, what are we, who are we, what's the vibe? We're doing that live and publicly with those first episodes in particular. And then Sylvia comes on at season 1.5 there, and of course adds her own excellent brain to the mix, and we change again. And we, those little like mini episodes, I think were one of our biggest, like, experimental pieces, because we could just put these random pieces together, and you know, we got more audio equipment, we got more audio people working with us, and just those opportunities to play and develop, but doing it live with a product that launches, that we can see which episodes do better and which fans like which people, and get that feedback live. It's been liberating, honestly.
The world building of The Concierge, you said is set in the future, but like, how different is that world compared to ours?
Not too different. So one of the things that we're trying to keep in mind is that ultimately we are providing escapism, right? We're providing fiction. So you'll see that we're not going to name public recognizable names. We're not going to reference real world cataclysmic events. People want to not think about that when they're in their fiction. So we are going to be operating in a very fictional way that runs like alternate reality parallel to wherever the future is going to end up, because we might still be developing this franchise 10 years from now, and you know, we're stepping on what we said history was going to be, and now it's not, and oh god. So it
helps us avoid this was relevant in the moment, and then, you know, 2 years later what we said makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause something in the real world, it's like, yeah. So it is kind of a little bit of alternate reality. We're leaning into the sci-fi aspect of it a bit, just to give us that creative license to be able to deviate and not traumatize people with. There's enough trauma in real world events right now.
Though
God, yeah.
I will say, I thought it was really cool. One of the things that struck me when you came on, when I came on, sort of read about the concierge, was I liked what you and Mary did with the whole issue of surveillance and the tech the agents have being. To me, one of the cores is you gain these field agents gain anonymity and invisibility, which is priceless in this
In our modern age
ad,
too.
yeah, like this ad-driven surveillance state. But, you know, they pay a heavy cost for it, and that's where the office politics and the personal cost comes in. So to me, that sort of seemed like an instant part of the IP, like the questions around, what have you paid for this thing that should be free but is impossible to get anymore?
Yeah.
Which is, yeah.
Exactly. One of the things that our art director really nailed on the head, and I will quote him for the rest of our days on that, is this is not cyberpunk. This is prior to cyberpunk. This technology, the house technology, this is first iteration, second iteration. It's got bugs, it's got problems, and it cooks people's brains. But like Sylvia was saying, the desperate need for that feeling of personhood that comes at the expense of selling your personhood to the company to get that thing that should have been free. It creates just an interesting play space, because then you get good people doing bad things. And understandably so, which is inherently more interesting than good people doing good things all the time.
Mm-hmm. And that's something I liked about the concierge too, is like this data issue, because like that's definitely something we're dealing with now, and just starting to see like the repercussions of like all this data hoarding and what that's representing. Like someone like literally today just linked me something about LinkedIn now being able to tell your boss that you're searching for a new job. It's like, oh God.
Jesus.
Yeah. So it's like it's you guys are set in the future at the same time. It's like, oh God, I'm watching that about to happen.
Yeah, no, we are living in sci-fi right now.
Yeah.
Which is
has its ups and downs. The Artemis mission, that's cool.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. You know, all the what do they even call it? I can't even remember. Where they do the augmented reality glasses and whatnot everybody's wearing now, and like all that sort of stuff is wild and crazy, you know, 10, 20 years ago. But putting the lens on speculative sci-fi when we're living in speculative sci-fi right now with AI and everything, is interesting, and I find strangely reassuring. Because the house is kind of coded to be a bit more old world. It's got the gold and the mahogany desks and, you know, the terrible paper exchange of data and whatnot. And yeah, strangely, I find that like kind of reassuring to live in, because the real world is going way off in a different direction. And so it does kind of give us like this little space of just freedom to play in that I think has levels of nostalgia for folks that are...
The house isn't benevolent, but it has style. It has an artisan quality to it. Weirdly, that's like you can say it's like the one admirable thing about them is like
they got aesthetics.
Yes, they are screwing you over, but they're paying someone to make that mahogany desk out of real wood. They're keeping some craftsman alive somewhere. Is it worth it in the cost of human lives? Well, no, but the desk is cool.
I mean, the house is benevolence, a strong word for the house.
Oh no, I said not benevolent. I mean that. Oh yeah, no, yeah. Not benevolent.
Yeah. Okay. No.
No.
Just to get that clear.
So let's talk about the characters of the podcast real quick. So like I believe you said in one of the Q&As that like Stuart, which is the first character you kind of meet in the audio drama, like he almost didn't have a lead role.
He didn't exist.
Oh,
he
okay.
was not a character at all. And then we were like, we should really introduce a new guy to help, you know, introduce the world.
Yeah, the first draft of episode 1 was just Hardy and Gardner.
How many times did you end up rewriting it?
I don't even know. I don't know what numbers are anymore. I can't count.
Well, I know we actually did a full recording session.
Yeah.
Like we did it. We took it all the way through our very, very first one. We made it. And we sat it and we're like, Yeah.
I can't. It's so weird to me because I can see why, but to me I'm like, oh, Stuart didn't exist, but he's such a fulcrum now. Like I never saw the other versions, so to me it's always been etched in stone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Stuart is voiced by our composer, So he was
One
already
of,
on
Andrew
board.
also does composition, but he's the one that did the theme song. Yeah.
Yeah. So he'd already been on board for the theme song, and we got him to do lines for Stewart initially, and then Stewart's part grew because we loved Stewart.
Oh, he is Stewart. Like he's
Yeah.
so him. He's just this bubbly, happy guy.
Is that kind of how PJ started too? Because I believe you said John is also the casting director. Is that what his title is?
Okay, John Batty, who is the performance director. So he's our
Performance director.
primary works with actors guy. To help guide their stuff. He's actually got a doctorate in the performing arts. Like he's real good.
Oh,
at it.
wow.
Yeah. He's a sweet and amazing human being who has very little reflection of what PJ actually is.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I was like, hey John, can you play this character, because you're such a sweetheart and everybody loves you and you're so wonderful, play this guy.
Yes.
So-
And I wrote PJ knowing that John was going to voice him, and it was completely against type. I'm like, this is perfect. If
Yeah.
he says this in John's voice, perfect.
Yeah, no, it's great. And now it's to the point where he's like, I can't on PJ hear myself when he speaks. I'm like, oh no.
So let's actually talk about the actors a bit. So have they enjoyed working with you all? How did you even get them? How did that happen?
I think they all hate me, and they
No.
only show up at knife point.
They don't.
No, they don't. They're all excellent. They are all from Edmonton, actually. We work in person because we are, indie. We're trying to learn a lot. This is relevant. I promise. Eventually, it'll make a point. But all of us working in AAA or blockbuster films or whatever, we're specialists. We've been specialists on top of our field and whatnot for so long. But by going down to a much smaller team, we need to learn other hats. And literally, I needed to learn audio. And so in doing, I needed to learn how to cast people. I needed to learn, all the SAG and ACTRA laws and all that sort of stuff. So that became we learned so much from doing season 1 of The Concierge. I can't articulate how powerful that was to just get us from what if to we did. And that was wild. So in part of doing that, I just wanted to start small, cheap. I had no idea if this would be anything or go anywhere yet. So I just started local. And the guy who voices Stewart and is our composer is one of the 3 people who found me, because I went to a local audio meetup. And we just started chatting, and I took all of them with me. The other guy was the voice of Aaron, Lee Savage, and then Andrew, who is our North Mist audio guy, bedded with us now. So, it was I'm glad I randomly went to that meetup. And then it just sort of became who do you know in the area? And who do you know? And who do you know? And then John helped me with some of his contacts, because Edmonton, strangely enough, has a huge theater community.
Yeah.
And so most of our performers are improv artists, or theater artists, or musical theater. Yeah, they're all local performers with varied skill sets. And one of the things that we intentionally set out to do was find authentic Canadian accents. So all of their voices in The Concierge is their normal speaking voices. They're not putting on a voice. So you get some of the regional dialects a little bit, which is something that mainstream media doesn't really highlight, that Canadians have regional dialects.
Yeah, I mean, it's even a thing in American media where Midwestern standard accent is the broadcast accent.
Yeah.
And regardless of where you come from, you put that on when you are performing for most things, unless it is a period drama or it's set in West Virginia specifically, you don't get to speak with your natural accent. Getting to be able to play with authentic Canadian accents and regional accents and turns of phrase is kind of liberating, to not have to be in that generic North American.
It's true. Well, to that note, we have Anthony, who plays the Edmonton Concierge.
Yeah.
He is originally from Australia, but has been living in Canada for, part of the Canadian experience. And in most countries, is immigrants happen.
Yeah.
Same with Mackenzie, who plays Pines.
Yeah.
That's his authentic accent. That's what he sounds like. There's a couple of them, Jindra's another one. We've got a mix of performers from all over the country. Most are from Edmonton. Some are from the West Coast like me. Some are from Ontario.
I see a lot of Canadian pride in you guys, and on your website it says you make uniquely Canadian games. What does that mean to you guys? Is it just using Canadian talent? Is it just setting it in Canada? A mix of both? Is there like...
It is partly because I've spent my entire career making stories not based in Canada. And it's partly just because of that challenge of wanting to do fresh. It's partly because a lot of our funding sources are Canadian. And it's partly just because so little like set in Canada is Canada flag, hat, whatever stapled to it, media exists. And so because it is so like, you know, our cultures are very similar to the States and whatnot, but we get to add like a little bit more surprise and extra and stuff that we intuitively know of. Like, for example, a certain project that's coming up that may or may not be related to Kinbasket. It kind of gives us an excuse to dive into, you know, the communities and things that we see every day, and the stuff that inspires us a little bit more personally than a fictional universe somewhere or a, you know, a euphemism for the States. So it just gives us a bigger playground to play in, a fresher sandbox, as it were.
It's been kind of cool because to set someplace in a real world location, which is again, Mass Effect touched on. You know, obviously Mass Effect 3 starts on Earth.
In Vancouver,
you know, good old Vancouver. It sort of struck me at the time. The only reason this is set in Vancouver, which is cool, is because we're a Canadian company. Like usually, Canada doesn't get a chance to play itself. You know, in film. Toronto notoriously fills in for New York, Toronto and Vancouver for New York all the time, because I believe it's cheaper for American companies to film up here, and they have that density of skyscrapers. But
all the Twilight films was filmed in Vancouver.
Oh, there you go.
And similarly, Alberta has a lot of film companies that come up here to film like
Yeah.
desolate wastelands.
Okay, listen.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
you're not wrong.
Canada gets to appear in a lot of films, but not as Canada.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's often the wilderness. There's been a few games where you get an actual Canadian city. It hasn't never been done before, but they're more rare, and it's actually fun to go, you know, by gosh, maybe there's not a ton of people listening from tiny place in Canada. For example, like we went to Revelstoke in Kinbasket, but by gum, if they are, they're gonna go, oh my god, someone mentioned Revelstoke in a thing, and it's not about skiing.
And
like,
Valemont.
yeah. Or sorry, did we? Yeah, we mentioned Valemont. Sorry, Valemont and Revelstoke, right? Like both of them.
Kamloops and yeah.
Yeah. So like, you know, it's fun to imagine that small handful of people going, oh my gosh, because ultimately the story, you know, works even if you don't know what those places are, never been there. But there's also a wealth of stuff you can pull on from the real world. I think I mentioned this in a Blue Sky post, but like the hotel with the gazebo in Kinbasket, it's a real place. I just kind of did some Google map poking around and went, that's actually kind of a cool place to set this. It's the gazebo is such a little cute real world detail. I wouldn't have thought of it myself. It's just in the background comment. But yeah, parking lot's haunted.
Before I forget, I need to call out Corbin real fast.
Oh yeah, sorry,
Yes.
please.
Yeah. So Corbin Kishnarik is the voice of Mike. So he's a phenomenal person who needs a shout out for entirely. Mary wrote Mike. Corbin happened to exist in a quantum state right next to Mike and also is Mike.
He's amazing.
He's
we saw
incredible.
His accent work is just
Yeah.
Oh, he's so good. Yeah, he's coming on to do some consulting work for us pretty soon too. Incredible local guy. But that's part of the fact that we're digging local and looking local is not only like good for the budget, but it's also like you don't appreciate what's directly around you unless you look for it. And this is the first time, professionally, we have a reason to go look for it. We have a reason to go on vacation to Kinbasket at some point. Like we have.
I really want to do it.
I know, right? We should do it. But you know, we have a reason to just be like, I need inspiration. Where's Jasper? Yeah. It's just really cool to get your head out of the computer and start like meeting local businesses and business owners and just, you know, cutting deals and you don't really realize what people are willing to participate in until you ask. And
gotten so much local support.
We have,
from people volunteering time to just being like helping spread the word. Thank you for having us on the podcast. But seriously, like there's been
it's true grassroots.
Yeah.
Absolutely, truly grassroots.
Well, it's been lovely to see. They've been so generous.
It's heartwarming. Like even like baristas at Starbucks are like, you're doing a what, where?
Aw.
You used to work for who? And so, yeah, like I gave them some business cards or whatnot for the thing. Like, yeah, there's just a lot of that. And it's kind of also nice to be flying at the lower altitude
Yes.
of recognition because we get to fail in public. But we're
Yes.
learning at 100 miles an hour, which is wonderful. And it's kind of nice not to have that. That being said, we need to build up to getting the recognition. But in these very, very early stages, it's just like the heartwarming, fuzzy part of development.
I want to actually talk about Kin Basket a bit. So, like, for those listening who have not listened to it yet, I don't want to go too much into spoilers. But, like, the season 1, I think, was very much like a, how did you describe it? A office drama
Spy thriller office drama.
That's a great way to describe it, where it's talking about like the postmortem of a failed mission. And then Kin Basket is kind of like a side story that was something else. And it got kind of spooky. So is this going, like, this spooky tone felt very different from the rest of the Concierge. So is that something you're going to explore on the side, or?
I think it has to be on the side because, well, here's the thing. I love supernatural stuff. I love fantasy stuff. I will. So I was like, guys, can I jam this in here? We thought it would be fun to do a one shot to sort of fill in a simple one shot with one character to fill in some of the scheduling between this and the mainline Concierge postmortem audio drama. So when it came time to write it, we sort of brainstormed stuff, and I remember asking Mary and Sarah, should we actually make this explicitly tied to the Concierge? Like, have someone from the house do this? So we debated that, and I think, God, Mary, you had a really good reason why it should be, and I can't remember it now. I just remember
It was so
smart.
genius. It was forgotten.
Mary, it was smart.
I don't remember it either. So
Dang it.
genius.
Sorry.
Good
So
job
forgotten.
past me, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was about the listener base because they're all invested in the Concierge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was it. Like, I think that's
That
what you
feels
two.
like something you would have said. Maybe. I don't know.
I think that was it, though. So we ultimately decided, yes, this will be an agent from the house, but we did want to make it a side story because, you know, spy thriller office drama is not supernatural weirdness psychodrama. It's a completely different thing. We didn't want to cram the IP, I guess you'd call it by now, with too much stuff. So, yeah, I am still interested in exploring that because
It's our most popular episode at the moment.
I think it's. I think that's because it's easy to go listen to this one-shot horror thing. Horror is big because you sort of, it's, you know what it is going in. It's sort of easy to grasp in the sense that something about this will be off-putting or spooky or gory or eerie. It can be many things, but you get a bench line. So yeah, I would love to do more in that world. I've been posting about this on Blue Sky, but we do have a experimental side project, we're calling it for now. We don't want to get into too many details until it's got more of a head of steam on it, but yes, we're exploring going into spooky stuff. And hey, listen, would I love to drop a nod to the spooky stuff into the Concierge? Absolutely. Do I think the mainline game should be spooky? No, I don't think I think it would be more what we're doing now, the
Focus
thriller.
on people.
Yeah,
It's got
exactly.
a big focus on, like, I think that's a trap actually Dragon Age fell into a bit, is that, and even Mass and all of these large epic stories, honestly, just across everything, is that it tries to one-up itself, right? We're going bigger, we're going bigger, we're going big. How close to the beginning of the universe does the problem have to get to? Where, just to make this a Bioware analogy again, like, the story of Hawk and Kirkwall was always intended to be like, it's a family drama. It's this like tiny personal people with personal problems. And there is a lot of emotional meat there. And that's where I think the Concierge, literally Murder, Mayhem, and Maple Syrup, it's all about like that interpersonal dynamic. How could you? Who did it? What's going on? Should I? Do we kiss? Like, that kind of stuff is much more ground level human than, you know, Reapers and that kind of thing at the moment.
And I think that fits in with your grassroots thing that you just said. Like, it's about the people, and it's also made by the people, you know?
Well, so are the Reapers, let's be clear. Or of people, but anyway.
I guess that is the joy of the indie studio too, though, is like I could go, hey, can I throw in like a weird monster ghost, whatever this is here? And they're like, well, you're writing it. We're not going to say no, so yeah, go for it.
Oh,
Thank
okay,
you
I'm
for-
going to throw you under the bus again. This is the second time I've said publicly. I went to Sylvia with a, hey, we need to stop the gap between these two episodes because Christmas, right? And I was like, give me a 10-minute script. And she came back with a 30-minute
You
one.
wanted more than 10 minutes. You said like 15. And I was like, okay.
15 minutes to 30.
Not 30.
Listen, horror needs a runway.
It sure did. But then the point is, we set out to
Yes.
do this because we're like, this has to cost $0. So then I ended up voicing everything in it.
Thank you, Sarah.
You did the intro. Thank you.
You could have told me no at any point. You're like,
I can't do that because you keep handing me good scripts.
Ooh, that's what I want to hear. No, but no, seriously, Sarah did do a heroic job voicing this thing I thrust at her. Like, hey, buddy, how about this? And it was fun. It was fun hearing recording. Andrew, our sound guy, did a fabulous job.
And Chris, they actually did a
Oh
bunch
yeah,
of
Chris did the
monster sounds.
The
and all
over. Yeah, did he help with the music or the sound as well, Chris?
Okay, so Andrew does almost all of the hands-on in-engine or in-editor style stuff. So when you're hearing God, that guy, he will get in his car and pull off all these driving stunts or whatever and record it live. Like a lot of the reason the audio sounds so good. And like they literally went to a curling rink for the latest episode of the Concierge. Like they literally, that's real rocks on ice hitting things. Like, yeah, I think if you can get anything from this is that we're cranky old professionals who finally get to play. And a lot of what we're doing now is just pure joy of playing because there's nobody in a corporate office to tell us no.
Yeah, it's the freedom and the constraint of having no budget, really.
Yes.
Because when there are millions of dollars invested in it, you can't do anything. Like
No, that's gotta
everything
be
needs
so
to be
approved
checked 15 times, and
Yeah.
it takes 5 years to come out. And when you have no money, it's like, well, I'll go to a curling rink and I'll come back and we'll have something tomorrow.
have a great conversation with the owner, and then all of a sudden you've got another fan of the podcast, and it just all
And it's done, and it's completed, and it didn't take 5 months. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, we've turned around shit in like 3 days.
Get it
That sort of
into people's ears as quickly as possible,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
find out what they like and what they don't like, as opposed to waiting forever.
I looked at my the point in time which I wrote my first draft of Emmerich, and by the time the game shipped, and I was, like the first draft went out to peer review. I think April, May 2019, and I was like, Jesus
Oh my God.
Christ. Yeah. So I basically was noodling around with that character for 5 years, and I love Emmerich, but holy crow, like that just hit me. 5 years is a long time.
But you get really into those characters' heads. But contrarily, now that it's like you guys, full stop, running this whole cast of characters, you have a armada in your brains of humans and people and things and pots and places. What does that feel like compared to like the one character you were kind of assigned before?
I don't remember what I did yesterday.
That would do it.
I was gonna say Mary created the bulk of the characters, so for the most part, so Mary, does this sound right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. I only did a few so far. Eventually, it'll probably start piling up.
The Vancouver Concierge is an interesting character. I would like somebody else to voice, but
Oh yeah. Vancouver's in Kim Basket. Yeah.
yeah. Just this salty old hates life person. I don't know. I just vibe with those characters.
So I want to ask about like the game you're making too. Like you've had a couple hints come out and a little whatever. Are you able to talk about kind of like what type of game it is or what it looks like or anything like that?
Favorite part about owning the studio is I'm not going to sue myself. So like this is the penultimate freedom of being able to do this. So one of the things that we're kind of setting out to do is to actually reveal far more than we normally would at this phase of development. Because like development on the Concierge is only like a year in, which normally you wouldn't hear a peep out of a AAA studio from 10 years ago by this point. Yeah. We've got concept art we've released. We've got character names. You've heard the voices of the characters already that are going to take place in the game. I'm really tempted to even just announce where it's going to be located.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the video game takes place in Victoria, British Columbia, and you play as the Victoria Concierge, which is why you haven't heard them voiced yet.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so these are your agents that have been fucking
Oh
up.
no.
Yes. So, Mike, Tilda, and Aaron are your agents. Yes. They will be taking, as of yet, the current plan, caveat, is that they are very much in the game. They've got character models already going through. They're all concepted up. We've got some tests, animation tests already done. We've shot mocap. Yeah.
Oh, you're doing mocap.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, what the heck's the point of me with all my cinematic background if I don't use it?
Yeah, okay, that's fair. In my mind, mocap is like this big, huge, expensive thing. So, like, I didn't know that was in the budget. But maybe, like, I don't know how do you mocap on indie?
Carefully. But actually, the
Well, yeah.
technology's advanced quite a bit. So it's much more within reach.
Okay.
Of stuff. We actually spent a lot of time mixing technologies because some like methods of motion capture are better at doing some things. Like there's optical. We did some optical shooting at a local university here, and we just like went up to the business owners and was like, "Hey, can we borrow your shit?" And we did some tests on that just to see which technology types works best. And we found like kinetic gloves work better for finger data than optical gloves do, or the optical tracking does, and mixing match stuff. And there's a whole bunch of new solvers out there. And yeah, we did a lot of just how can we do this better, faster, stronger, which is another freedom from the AAA space, is because you end up, when you've got the big budgets, there's a huge, huge pressure to just get it out the door. And the R&D time is never enough. You never get to go, yeah, but what's the best way to do it? So you end up kind of falling back on what you know works and not what necessarily is the best way to do it. So we actually took some time and did a whole bunch of research and were able to get a much more efficient pipeline down. So the current plan, and I can't caveat this enough, but the current plan is, yeah, we're looking to do a full-blown cinematic choice-based game that is much, much smaller in scale, I will preface that, than the big 40-hour, 100-hour ones from Bioware, because we are a smaller team. But we are looking to stretch and push and innovate in what we are already experts at. So, yeah, you can expect the Concierge to scratch certain itches in that regard.
Here's a scary question. Is there like a timeline of release, or is it just...
That is what we're currently working on. So we've got the team, the very, very tiny team at the moment. We are building it. That is currently the plan. How long we get to build it is what we're hoping for. That's what we're hoping for. That's what we're really working hard towards. It's also one of the reasons why we are picking up the other unnamed horror project on the side, is to just sort of help get things out there, get people's feedback, make sure that we are, because we do have very limited resources, that we're making the right decisions with them. And the only way you really know if you have is if it gets tested, if it gets put into the market. If people, like, follow and subscribe, then you have market back data that then goes, okay, this is the right decision. We need to keep making this. Or we need to change it up, or hey, people really want X or Y feature. And yeah, so we're trying to take a more open development approach with the community than just a bunch of people in a boardroom.
What can you tell us about Unnamed Horror Project, if anything?
I want to make it pretty.
Well, what does that mean?
So the style that I'm currently pursuing, it's very, very early in development. Like we've developed it for exactly 1 week, I think.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I will say that the cover art of the episode that we released is actually an acrylic painting of mine that I did a couple years back. Yeah, so I've been translating that into a game engine.
Oh, like acrylic painting?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm been kind of digging in there. Like I want it to feel, there's a lot of really famous Canadian artists and all this, but I want it to feel a bit more, painterly, but also really vivid. It's a horror game, and horror's always fun because horror can either be like black with red, or it can be something like an acid trip. And I'm kind of playing in the middle of that. Things like the hard silhouettes and the more graphic shapes and more, surreal is the wrong term, but something that's got a really clear like visual richness to it is what I really, really want to push. Whereas like the Concierge is vibing very much more old world and high polish and, gold leaf everywhere. This is going to feel much more like Northern Canadian wilderness with, at Twilight and that kind of thing. Not that Twilight. Anyway, so going for spook, going for atmosphere. And like I was saying, every project that we make is teaching us something and is pushing us forward. This one is our big push into art, honestly. And to make a really, really eye-catching art style is our big push on that, and atmosphere and mood and creepiness and yeah, all that fun stuff.
So, Sylvie, is it you that's doing the Blue Sky posts about the horror project?
Yeah, I've just taken over the Blue Sky temporarily. While Sarah's heads down on a lot of other work, it just seemed like a better allocation of time.
You were talking about like local history and how that plays into horror, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that was fun because when the reason we picked Kim Basket was Sarah, you literally just told me, "Hey, we could try this lake," because
The premise was a kayaking trip to find yourself.
could you talk about the kayaking, because that's really cool.
Okay, so I'm gonna, Katie, if you put any of this in here, you have to have my heavy caveat of, okay, super early development, might not stay, don't get emotionally attached.
Yeah, because that's actually a fun idea, because we had the idea of, my pitch was basically more or less something spooky set in the Rockies, because the Rockies, you have that intimidating natural backdrop in the Rockies. There's a lot of sense of power and majesty and naturally to those giant mountains. And then we liked the idea of exploring a lake, but we weren't sure how mechanically it would all fit. And then Sarah, you suggested, how about kayaking? And I was like, that's brilliant, because that just seemed like a very easily graspable game mechanic.
Well, if you've ever been out swimming deep in a lake, like way out from shore, there is nothing creepier than something brushing your leg when there shouldn't be anything anywhere near you.
Well, and
Says
I
it's
mean,
seaweed, yeah.
true fact, Kinbasket is a reservoir that's flooded over towns.
Yes.
And mines.
There are
Yeah.
submerged mines and towns
It
underneath
has
this
a
lake.
really tragic natural disaster level history, but yeah.
Yeah. And that was something I didn't know at all when Sarah proposed Kim Basket, and I started researching it, and I've
It's
mentioned
a
this before.
250-kilometer long
Yeah.
lake.
Oh my gosh.
It was created from a dam, so it's
Yeah.
actually a reservoir technically.
Yeah.
But it's 250 kilometers long, which is very, very long for American listeners.
Yeah, and it is part of the Columbia River Treaty, which I now know a lot about. It's Micah Dam was actually a surprisingly cool place to sort of set the part of the bit of Kim Basket, because it's like this. It's a hydroelectric dam that's part of a dam system that provides power to both Canada and the U.S. And there's like a whole bunch of rules around it. And I was like, oh man, this place actually has a way longer history than I thought. BC Hydro, which is British Columbia's utilities company, actually has a lot of archival footage of it and everything. So there's actually fairly well documented history.
Recent history too.
Yeah.
Like that, the back flooding to create this, it's in living memory.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
There is a local newspaper called, no, sorry, not local Edmonton, but local to that area. They cover like, I believe Valemont and Revelstoke, called the Rocky Mountain Goat. And they actually have a reporter who she does a lot of, she's done some articles on the history of Kinbasket and the lake and the current environmental state of it and everything. I was like, this is such a rich resource. I lucked out so hard on this, because it's all easily findable online. It's not something you have to go through microfiche for in an older archive or such. That was just a really cool thing to find out, because how much we touch on this, I mentioned this, like, the game might end up touching on all this only very lightly. It depends on what we do. It depends on the time we want to spend on it. And
But this is the fun part of the project where
Yeah.
everything's a big fat what if.
yeah,
And we're info gathering.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool baseline to work from, because again, people who've boated out there might one day see the game like, oh my god, someone said something on Kinbasket. It's just a cool extra bit for people who live there, and it gives you a good grounding in the world. And
And spooky.
it's kind of cool. I like all forms of horror, but there's something unique about horror that's set in like a parallel real world where these things exist and happen, because it gives you that sort of extra little bit of that frisson, I think, of ooh, that is the absolute familiar colliding with
Can
the
we
uncanny.
give a shout out to Andrew and Chris for coming up with a sinister chickadee?
Yes. We had the idea that the entity, I'm just going to call that for now, that Agent Weaver encounters would sound more natural at first, just like background noise you wouldn't notice. And then as the podcast goes on, that chickadee sound eventually starts to warp. And it's an actual chickadee. And I found this, again, kind of handy to have this stuff. A park guide to that area of British Columbia listing all the birds available. And yes, they did have chickadees. And it's such a cute, innocuous sound. that they turned into something absolutely horrific, which rules. I love it.
Well, I guess, okay, so you guys just started season 2. One, like, when can we expect the next episode of season 2?
All right, I'll take that. So I am so busy at the moment that Sylvia has taken on the social media stuff and all that. Very, very busy. And we're also because we're using a bunch of local actors, they are very busy. This is the busy time of year for them as well. So, yeah, we're trying. So I will say
That's
that
fine.
We did make the announcement that season 2 will not be 6 episodes long. It'll actually be 7 because Sylvia can't stop writing.
To be fair, okay, just in my defense, this one time, because you read another times, there was a lot of stuff to wrap up.
There was.
Yeah,
there was a lot.
There was. Yeah. So our typical episodes run, because we actually released Mary's scripts for season 1. They're on Patreon. For folks that are curious to actually see what the script looks like and all the crazy notes in the margins and descriptions of things. But they average roughly somewhere between like 20 to 30 pages per. The original episode 6, the finale for season 2, was 78 pages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, that's what I said when I saw that. And but then I read it and I was like, oh crap, it makes sense. So we had to have like this big team meeting, be like, okay guys, we got one extra episode in us, can we do this? And we all decided yes, we are. But because of budget restrictions, we did have to wait for all of them to be written. They are now written. So I am this month in the process of actually recording them all and getting all of the oodles of actors and all our crazy schedules together. So all of this to long-windedly say we are trying for a May episode. And we are also in discussions about maybe doing something in the middle.
Is season 2 going to be the last season, or is it just kind of up in the air?
It's up in the air at the moment. I don't want to say definitively one way or the other at the minute, simply because we got a lot of irons in the fire on other stuff, and we are a small team with a limited human capacity to do things. So we will not leave you. Like season 2 does wrap up with satisfaction. That is something I think we can all absolutely say. Like, we will treat your feelings good. Season 2 is not an epic, well, it's not epic cliffhanger. But yes.
It leaves threads open for a season 3, but it wraps up
all the big
everything that
the
we
big
had in
plots.
season
Yeah. Like I said, the human capacity is a big issue that we didn't used to have to deal with because we just unleashed an army of people and money hoses at stuff before. But at the minute, yeah, we don't want to excite anticipation. But at the same time, we're also not closing doors because, yeah, we got a lot of spinning plates.
I think it's fair to say that we would concentrate more on game dev work for a while after this wraps up.
Well, the way that this is going to release is it's going to keep people fed for narrative for that's 7 months of episodes that are going to drop. So like, yeah, we're trying. We're going to try to keep the fires going.
Yeah, you keep mentioning that like you're busy doing stuff. Can I ask what you guys are doing?
Video games.
Yeah, it's the game work.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, we're in a constant state of building games. Again, it's an addiction. It's just what we do. We love them. And with a small team, it takes a while to get things done. A lot of it is just research. A lot of it is learning new skill sets. It just takes a while. However, the more that people can like, share, subscribe, follow, the faster we can build stuff. The more momentum we have, the better we can get to the finish line faster.
Now, you mentioned a demo. Is that in the works or?
Yes, it is. It is in the works. It's a ways out. We're not going to be my goal, and I'll say this loosely, is to start actually teasing footage from it this year. Well, not even this year, in the next couple months.
No, stick to this year. That's nice and vague.
Okay. In this decade, eventually, yeah. You're right, Sylvia. Just don't want to announce any release dates yet or trailer drop dates yet, but that's what we're actively working on in our day-to-day. And it's a lot of work, and I'm tired.
So I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me. And to kind of like end this, what do you want to plug? What would you like to shout out?
Oh, God. All right. So if you want us to make stuff better, faster, stronger, and get it in your hands faster, best thing you can do is to head over to Patreon. So North Mist Studios at patreon.com. And follow us on Blue Sky, YouTube. You join our newsletter if you want more of, at the moment, it's Sylvia's
it's just
magical words. That kind of stuff. Patreon also has access to the newsletter. That direct support and anything that love bombs our numbers, that kind of stuff, that all pushes us faster to the objective we're headed towards.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. And I hope to talk to you again when there's a demo and get to pluck your brains a little bit more. And like, I'm very excited to see where you guys go and to support you on your journey for that.
Well, thank you so much.
That'd be lovely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Again, a huge thank you to Sarah, Mary, and Sylvia for taking the time out of their busy schedule to talk with me. And as Sarah mentioned, if you would like to support them on their game-making journey, I have provided links to everything down below. And with that, Darash Shiral.
Yeah, do we need an outro that's more outro-y, or are you gonna...
Everyone knows nobody knows how to end things, and you just kind of run with that.
Just we all agree to be socially awkward together. Yes.
Hell yeah.